Here's how I made a recent 3D sculpt. I started with a sketch. There was a good few false starts while figuring out the best way to stylize the piece, eventually settling on a design with pillows framing the composition. Next, I moved on to Nomad Sculpt and started blocking out the main forms of UV spheres. I worked with masks and the drag tool to push and pull them around. I shifted to using tubes for the limbs, tail, neck and body. This makes it much easier when posing, though be sure to switch off snapping to make your life more straightforward. I shifted between my cardinal views to maintain a good relationship between the forms while building them up. I tried to line up the elements in reference to the sketch, reshaping the torso to create the correct silhouette. Some elements were quite loose in the initial drawing, the shoulders for instance. They needed a good bit of pushing around so they would work in a 3D space, while also convincingly conveying the anatomy. I created the ears out of tubes, though adjusted them to have a more triangular profile. I built the eyes using flattened cylinders rather than anything too volumetric, so I can keep the streamlined head shape, and use a UV sphere for the nose and the drag tool to align it with the head form. I add the tail using a tube and pose it to weave in and around the limbs. I created our ground to help with those contact points for the limbs. The front angle is my master shot, so once I had all the forms working from that angle, I could recontour the top and side views. I then did some very rough sculpting for the cushions, creating a cuboid and using the drag tool to adjust the shape. I find remeshing them at a low resolution and pushing the forms around before smoothing again helps to make it less fiddly. I duplicated and flipped the pillow and then adjusted as needed. I do some additional tweaking to the forms of the cushions and the torso to make sure they mesh together in 3D space. I duplicated the eye discs to create pupils, offsetting them to be proud of the surface. Here I am adjusting ground contact points so that she lies flat on the surface. Things are mostly where they need to be, so I started validating the tubes and using the smoothing brush to get rid of any surface artifacts. I start doing the colouring of the forms next, figuring out what the suitable reflective or rough qualities of the materials are. I also take the opportunity to round out the pupils so they will catch more reflective light. Oh, and the addition of the collar. Then add some colour for the cushions and the ground, and I start lighting the scene. I use a simple tree light system, colour tinting them to help clarify the forms, coming at the piece with a magenta fill light to the front right, an orange key light to the left, and more neutral light coming from above. I did some messing with a cel-shaded line effect on the collar, but decided I would just have it as an unlit material, similar to the yellow of the eyes. And here's a turnaround. Thanks for watching.